There's a line the Apostle Paul writes in Romans 7 that I would love for you to read out loud somewhere, because when you say it out loud, you realize it's not a Bible line at all. It's a real line. Here it is. I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I do. That is not a hypothetical person. That is the voice inside your head at 11 o'clock at night when you promised yourself you weren't going to look at your phone one more time, and you did. That is the voice on Monday morning after the weekend didn't go the way you planned. That is the parent whose patience ran out at 5:47 p.m. again. Paul is not writing to hypothetical people. Paul is writing to you. And a few chapters over, in a completely different gospel, Jesus answers the ache underneath that line. Not with a discipline plan, with an offer. Ancient truth for the modern week. From the dusty roads of the first century to the high-speed life of the 21st, we're stripping away the tradition to find the heart of the story. I'm your host, Joe, and this is Monday to Sunday. This week we're sitting with Proper 9 in the lectionary, the Sunday closest to July 6th. And I want to bring two readings together, because I don't think we usually put them in the same room. But I think when you do, they answer each other in a way that will land right where you're living. The two I want to look at are the end of Romans 7, where Paul says one of the most honest things a human being has ever said out loud, and then the end of Matthew 11, where Jesus makes an offer that is probably on more coffee mugs than any other verse he ever spoke. Let's go back to Paul first. Here is Paul, Romans 7. I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Now if I do what I do not want, I agree that the law is good. But in fact, it is no longer I that do it, but sin that dwells within me. For I know that nothing good dwells within me, that is, in my flesh. I can will what is right, but I cannot do it. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I do. And then the line, Wretched man that I am! Who will rescue me from this body of death? I do the very thing I hate. Anyone who tells you they don't know what that sentence means is not paying attention. And here's the thing I want you to notice. Paul does not solve this problem in Romans 7. He does not offer a self-help plan. He doesn't give you 10 steps. He doesn't tell you to try harder. He just says, Wretched man that I am! Who will rescue me? And then the chapter turns and he says, Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. That is it. That is the whole answer. He finishes the diagnosis not with a discipline plan, but with a rescue. Hold that. Now let's turn to the Gospel, Matthew 11. Because I think the Gospel this week is the rescue Paul is talking about, in Jesus' own voice. Listen to how Jesus ends Matthew 11. Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. There are two Greek words in there I want you to know, because they change what this verse is actually saying. The first word is Zygos, spelled zeta upsilon gamma omicron sigma. It just means yoke, and a yoke, in the ancient world, was a wooden crossbeam that got laid across the shoulders of two oxen, joining them together so they pulled as one. That's the picture Jesus is drawing on. Jesus is not offering you a bed. He is not offering you a hammock. He is offering you a yoke. Work. Still work, but shared work, directed work. Work that's actually going somewhere. The second word is the surprising one. It's Chrestos, spelled chi rho eta sigma tau omicron sigma. Every English Bible translates this word easy. My yoke is easy. But Chrestos in Greek is not easy the way we use that word today. Chrestos means kind, useful, well-suited, fitting. In the ancient world, when a carpenter made a yoke for a specific ox, he would say the yoke was Chrestos, meaning it fit that ox. It didn't chafe. It didn't rub the shoulders raw. It sat in a way that let the animal pull without pain. That is the word Jesus uses. So when Jesus says, "My yoke is easy," what he is actually saying, closer to the Greek, is, "My yoke fits." That is a completely different sentence, isn't it? My yoke is easy. You hear that and you think of a discount Christianity, a cheap version of the faith, a gospel that doesn't ask anything of you, and that is not the sentence Jesus is speaking. My yoke fits. That says something else entirely. It says, I know your shoulders. I made you. I know exactly where you would rub raw, and the yoke I am giving you is not the yoke that was killing you last week. It is the yoke that matches the shape of your actual life. There is a Jewish backdrop to this that helps. In the first century, every rabbi had what they called a yoke, a Zygos. It meant their particular way of interpreting the Torah, their particular way of walking with God. One rabbi's yoke might emphasize ritual purity. Another rabbi's yoke might emphasize tithing. Another might emphasize Sabbath. To take a rabbi's yoke meant to become their disciple, to see the whole law through their eyes, to walk in their particular way. So when Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you," he is saying, don't try to walk with God through the framework of every other teacher you've been listening to. Walk with God through me. See it my way. Let me be the interpreter of what obedience actually looks like for you. And here is what Romans 7 needed to hear. Because Romans 7 is the sound of a person trying to wear a yoke that does not fit. Paul is trying to obey the Torah. Really trying. And he's finding that the Torah, though it is good, is diagnosing him without healing him. The law shows him the shape of his brokenness, but doesn't put anything on his shoulders that helps him actually pull. He is wearing a yoke that is chafing him raw. And he cries out, "Wretched man that I am, who will rescue me?" Jesus' answer to Romans 7 is not, "Try harder." His answer is not, "Quit." His answer is, "Come to me. Take my yoke. Let me put on you the yoke that fits your actual shape." And notice, a yoke is for two animals. When you take a yoke, someone is on the other side of it, pulling with you. That is the whole point. A yoke is not a burden you carry alone. It is a burden that is shared. And in this case, shared with someone stronger than you. Jesus is saying, I am on the other side of this thing. Whatever the Father is asking of you this week, the parenting, the marriage, the work you can't quite figure out, the recovery, the grief, the calling, I am on the other side of the yoke with you. You are not pulling alone. And the shape of what I am asking is the shape of who I made you to be. That is the rest Jesus is talking about. It is not the rest of the hammock. It is the rest of not chafing. It's the rest of your neck no longer being rubbed raw by a yoke that was never yours to carry. Which is why the very next line is, "You will find rest for your souls." That phrase, "rest for your souls," is Jesus quoting Jeremiah chapter 6 verse 16. And in Jeremiah, God says to Israel, "Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths, where the good way lies, and walk in it, and find rest for your souls." Rest in Jeremiah is not the absence of walking. Rest is the presence of walking on the right road. Rest is what you get when you're finally going where you should have been going all along. So here's what I want you to leave with. If you are living in Romans 7 this week, if you know what it is to hate the thing you just did, that ache is not the enemy. That ache is the sound of a yoke that does not fit. And the gospel this Sunday is not telling you to grit your teeth and pull harder. The gospel this Sunday is telling you to walk over to Jesus, let him lift what you have been wearing off your shoulders, and take a different yoke, one that fits, with him pulling on the other side. That's the offer. Not laziness, not effortless, not easy the way we use that word. Chrestos, fitted, shared, real. If you take his yoke this week, you will still work, but you will not chafe. And the road you walk will actually be the road you were made for. I'm Joe, and this has been Monday to Sunday. Thanks for walking this road with me. Now take this truth into your week, and I'll see you on the next chapter.